Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, safe by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and this week I'm extremely honored to feature and introduce to you yet another amazing male survivor with an incredible story who found me through this podcast with Ann Diamond and who I cannot wait for you to listen to and learn from. Introducing MK Ultra survivor, targeted individual, writer, and author of the book 21st Century MK Ultra Slave, A Vintage Transhuman Tale, Ron Allen. Born in 1953 as the fourth son to a Navy pilot, an early developer of radar, father, and a mother who was a gray lady for the American Red Cross, Ron's abuse and programming began quite literally after birth, after he was given to the Valley Forge Army Hospital by his parents for 10 days immediately after he was born. Valley Forge Army Hospital was coincidentally used for the CIA's Project Bluebird, which precursed Project MK Ultra, and his hospital doctor, Dr. Beck, had many suspicious links, including to the CIA Manchurian candidates, as well as to the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which he joined at its inception and continued being a board member throughout his life. Ron has been an MK Ultra experimental subject since birth, first by early CIA and US Army Navy doctors, and later joined by FBI COINTELPRO. Ron and his older brother Gordon were chosen for Project MK Ultra, and it wasn't until 2005 when Ron's memories began flooding back at age 52, and that he would be awakened to the hard reality of what he didn't know he was forced and programmed to forget. Quoted from Ron's book, 21st Century MK Ultra Slave, A Vintage Transhuman Tale, quote, "Since his return to the US, he's been peeling back the layers to reveal the life he's really been living since the beginning. A life that is anything but normal, anything but sane, anything but straightforward. Forced to live in a web of illusions, he's finally beginning to make sense of it. Human beings are always in quest of meaning, whether we know it or not. And if we look hard enough and persevere, we find it," unquote. As an MK Ultra victim since birth, and an electronically targeted individual since 2000, what Ron's abusers did not anticipate was that he'd be standing here before all of you today and speaking his truth, despite all the money, all the years, and all the energy his abusers poured into keeping him quiet. Ron is, in fact, a modern-day hero. Ron's book, which I highly encourage you all to purchase, I'll share the link in the show notes below to make it easy for all of you to go click on and purchase, shares Ron's experiences with MK Ultra, a suicided brother, other dimensional entities, directed energy weapons, nightly REM Astral kidnappings, and much, much more. Ron's journey to alert the masses is his driving force to be here today, and I'm honored we all get to learn from Ron. I ask that you please give him your full attention and grab a pen and paper, as he is going to be covering a plethora of valuable information and certainly some things that we haven't talked about yet on this show. Before I finish introducing our guest, I wanted to give a reminder that if you are a survivor whistleblower who wants to share your story or who wants to share any information privately with me, you can now email me at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com. Please send me a briefing of who you are and how I can support you, whether it's through podcasting or sharing information. I also just started a Substack that you can support at www.emmacatherine.substack.com. Here I'll be doing weekly recaps and insights of my podcast episodes and using this platform as a place to publicly journal my journey as an advocate for our children. All my social, email, and project links can also be found in the show notes, and I'll link those. And as always, I'm so grateful for all your support, everyone. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming this week's guest, walking miracle, hero for the children, TI survivor, overcomer, author, brilliant mind, and absolute delight, the one, the only, Ron Allen. Ron, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Wow. Thank you, Emma. That was quite the intro.
You're welcome. I love writing the intros because I always, from talking to so many survivors, you were all so depraved of hearing these wonderful things about yourself. They were all the best things about you were all exploited. And so they become like curses to somebody who's been through horrible things. So it's an honor for me to be able to remind you that they're your gifts, so you've definitely touched my life already, and I'm really excited to share your story. So I wanted to open because I'm always curious. You don't hear a lot of male survivors speak up. And so obviously when you reached out with this incredible story, I'm thinking, how did I not hear of him yet? But most of all, just honored that you are speaking out and that you are willing to. And I know that there's a stigma behind males speaking out. There may not be as much reward or benefit per se as there may be for a woman to speak out. So I wanted to just ask you, what was your inspiration for speaking out? And what was there a moment where you were like, gosh, I really have to tell my story, or I'm going to go public?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, things were pretty fuzzy for me as I was trying to put things together. I was getting, pretty bizarre uh, happenstances, I'll call them, just memory dreams, as well as visuals or visions that I was going through. And I started to go to some UFO type of meetings, like MUFON, or even conferences. And I went to one MUFON meeting, and I met Bill Tompkins, who wrote a book about his experiences. And he told me, he said that we need to put everything together. Everybody has to come out with their stories. If they don't, we'll never know where we are or who we are. And, being brought up in the normal day-to-day life, the question of who we are isn't really applicable. It's just, you get a job, you have friends, get married, have children, whatever, and that's who we are. But come to find out, it's a little bit deeper than that. And, this has been going on for quite a while, thousands of years, with all the secret societies and the different experimentations going on with humans. But it isn't until now that things are starting to dovetail together, and we can actually see that there is manipulation and much more to the human soul and spirit than we knew. And so, yeah, this is revealing that is the reason why when Bill said that, I had to tell it because it's another piece of the puzzle. I was coming into it thinking that I was, somehow or another deluded and not accepting reality, when this was purposefully done to me, and it's done to everybody else. And what it is what Bill was talking about. We've got to all come out with our stories, because there are very varied stories, very many of them. So yeah, no, it was something. It was time to tell it. This is the time people are finding out about MK Ultra. It's for the longest time you never even heard about that. Most people, the normies, well, they haven't gotten it because the mainstream media doesn't talk about it. but everybody else is, the alternative news, it's starting to creep in, that is what's going on with the vaccination and the whole uh, setup of what the United States and the world is up to right now. We're having the wool pulled over our eyes, and that's mind control.
100%, and I have been such an advocate for listening to these stories because once I started this podcast, I realized your voices from what you've personally gone through and the truth aspect of it being an authentic story pulls the wool off of our eyes. I've been advocating everyone, you got to listen to survivors, turn off your TV. They're the ones that know the who's, what's, when's, where's, why's of all the questions that we have of the world. And I love your analogy of a puzzle too, because I think coming from such horrific things, it's so disempowering to a survivor to feel important and to feel like they have any worth. That's been taken away from them. All their innocence has been taken away. And so it's a really powerful reminder that no, you're a part of discovering something that is ancient, thousands of years old, and exposing it to people so we can stop it once and for all. So children of the future can have a better future finally, and not be born into these horrific cycles that have perpetuated over time. So I love that you encourage that, because I think it lights a spark in people who might feel just consumed by darkness. It's like you're holding up the candle and being like, no, it's actually light. Come follow me and we can all put our candles together and light the world up and share all
Yeah.
of this. So I really love that, and I'm so grateful and happy that you did decide to speak out, because you have a really amazing story that I know people listening, including myself, are going to get a lot of value from. So why don't we start diving into that? Maybe what you could do, if this would work, is maybe we start, later on in life, in your 50s, when those memories started coming back, and if you wanted to maybe paint a picture of what you thought your life was before that, sort of the cover story, and then maybe that wake up period, and then maybe we could go back and start at childhood and kind of work our way back, if that's okay with you. Otherwise,
Oh no, that's fine.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I've led a little different of a life than most people. I was always a little bit of a risk taker and adventure, the quest for what was out there, was always pretty high up on my list. Through surfing, I got into travel and, looking for the perfect wave. I ended up in Costa Rica, and I was down there, and I rented a room at this hotel, and I had this dream where it was a memory dream, but I saw a doctor, and he was standing. I was born in 1953, and this doctor is standing at a laboratory workstation, and he had the look, the station had the look of the 1950s, and I had not had a dream like this before. It was very vivid and very clear. But he looked right at me and he said, "Oh no, he's woken up." And the way he was looking at me, I could tell that I was an infant. And, I woke up from that. He was scurrying over to see me. And then I woke up, and it took me a long time to start figuring out what the heck that was all about. It was like getting a bucket of water thrown on me, because I related to it, but it was pretty foreign to me. And I got on the internet and I started looking up where I was born. My parents died in an accident in 1990, and this is where I had that dream is in 2005. And my uncle, my mother's oldest brother, right after my folks died, he told me that my mother, my first 10 days, she gave me to the hospital. She didn't even want to look at me. She wanted a girl. I was the fourth son. She wasn't uh, wanting a son, so she gave me away. And as he told me this, I was trying to, come to terms with that and figure out how to work with that knowledge and, you know, as to my love for my mother and my family, and yet, you know, she gives me away to begin with. So I was at the um, internet and I was looking up the hospital. I was looking for the nurse that helped me at that time because I figured a newborn baby all by itself uh, couldn't just lay there abandoned, that somebody would have to stop in and check on it, change its diapers, give it a bottle or whatever. And so I figured that I would like to find the nurse who was responsible for caring for me in my first 10 days, which is a pretty significant part of a human's life. So looking on the internet, I only found administrative nurses. I didn't find any of the the floor workers, the nurses' aides, or the nurse, anybody other than just the top tier. And then I found the doctor, and I looked at this one doctor, the Aaron T. Beck, and I realized, seeing a photograph of him, that it was the same man as who was in my dream, and it was him. And it was the hospital that I was born at was known for because it was when soldiers were coming back from from the Korean War, and they were going into that hospital, and you get an arm blown off and your elbow itches, and they call it phantom itch. And this hospital was dealing with that, as well as other psychological drama that happens during a war. And that was their entry into the mind control arena, because they figured that the Chinese and the Koreans were doing that they would get the upper hand on it, and where better to start than with the children and a newborn baby, a blank slate. And so that was my initial entry into the memory of what had transpired. And it wasn't something that I could just let loose and say, oh, well, that was interesting. It was the beginning of a very long trek of unearthing all the different aspects of this and how it has unfolded in my life. So yeah, that was I started asking around people that were familiar with the false memory syndrome foundation, and there was a white hat group that were investigating that group because they have a CIA appearance, and everybody that's on the team has background into CIA, and they're um, they're meant to go to court and put down any people that are having recovered memories, which for some odd reason, through childhood trauma and even continued trauma, it keeps you from remembering all that. And they even used, I did a regression, what I call a meditation regression, and at one point, and I saw a baby on a metal surface. I didn't know if it was a gurney or a little pan or what it was, a newborn baby that I figured was me. And the baby was shaking. And in my mind, I thought, well, yeah, I mean, it's cold. It doesn't have clothes on. It's laying on steel. It's shivering from that. And then I started shivering, and I realized that the baby wasn't shivering because it was cold. It was being electrocuted. It had that the electrodes hooked up to it, and they do that for disassociation. They separate uh, your cognitive thinking from your your eye, yourself, and they do that as well for covering up and making you forget what they've just finished. And I don't know, I haven't done much of the regression at all. I'd rather go through this without others' influence. And so they started my life at I had a heart murmur. I had a lazy eyelid, and my mother said that was because they pulled me out with forceps. It was the one physician assistant that I was with at one point told me that heart murmurs are a lot of times associated with a difficult birth. And it's part of the growth that happens during the trimester, the fourth trimester. So, when you have a difficult birth, that can be something that triggers. And I had a enlarged heart. My ascending aorta got to the point where I don't know, about 5 years ago, they had to crack my chest, take my heart out, and I had a triple bypass and the aortic valve replaced with a cow, and they wrapped the what they call a shunt around the aorta, so that because it had a very thin wall and it was about to blow. And all of these things happened because of the birth, and the birth being traumatic, because I was evidently not ready to come out. But where I saw what was on the other side or something.
That is pretty it's common to hear this within the survivor community, but you don't hear it a lot in society. And I think it's so important what you said about things that developed in your body health wise were a side effect of trauma. A lot of people don't think of that, and our bodies really do remember everything, even if our minds don't. And I don't think a lot of people consider what could have been harmful to them as an infant, entering the world. But those things, I mean, that shapes our first moment here. And
Right.
I can't even imagine how hard that was for little baby Ron to go through that, and to be subjected to all of that immediately after.
Oh yeah. And what else? I had that regression. It started, I wanted to know about the time in the hospital, and that's what my um, what I was meditating upon was to get a clear idea of what transpired inside that first 10 days in the hospital. And the very first thing that I saw was my mother, and she had me when she was 30. And the vision that I saw was my mother at age 30. And, this isn't the type of regression where, it's hypnotherapy where I was not under, I was conscious, but I was able to remember things very clearly to the point of being able to see them. And I saw my mother, and she was crying, and she was unconsolable. She was just crying and crying and crying. And the next thing that I saw was a woman, a young woman, 20 or whatever, and just joyous, just laughing, and I believe that was the nurse that I was looking for, or the nurse's aide, the one who came to my rescue as I was laying there after they had done whatever they were doing, and thank God for the human heart. There she is, consoling me, and a baby. I mean, a brand new baby, and making me laugh. She was very joyous. And then I went into the thing of being able to see me on the gurney or the metal pan. But it was, yeah, the hidden things that happen as a child, the trauma-based uh, um, activities that are known to these people, how they get away with their horror, their evil malintent, is through the trauma. They're doing it in the satanic ritual abuse. They're doing it in the MK Ultra in whatever form it's taken on now, and they're doing it with the television and the nightly news and all the bombings and medicine, or whatever that stuff's called, poison, I think. But yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
yeah, that was my entry into remembering that I had something to look at. When my uncle told me that, it was right after my parents died, and they died in a suspicious accident. My aunt told me that the police report did not reflect the scene. My father had started to take a gun with him because there was activity in the area, but it just, their bodies were, my uncle wanted me to see them in their grave or in their casket. It was something I did not want to do. But my oldest brother told me that my uncle requested me specifically to go see that. And when I did, I realized that the condition of their bodies did not match the condition of the vehicle. The vehicle was fine. The bodies were just very beat up. And so the at the time that he told me that I had had a difference of 10 days between when they did my birth certificate and that my mother had given me away for those 10 days. And then a few days after that, I felt an electronic leash being attached to me. And I was sitting with my two brothers, and another friend, and I asked if anybody else felt it, and nobody felt it but me. The funeral was heavily attended by my father's workmates and all our relatives. And in his workmates, there were people that I had no idea, but they were part of the activity. My father told me on his way out of town uh, before their accident, last thing he told me was that he had been dosed with LSD, and he was an engineer at that point with Grumman Aerospace. He'd been to Vietnam with them, and there was no reason that he didn't know he was being given it, and we didn't get an opportunity to go into it because they left on a trip. And so their interplay with our family was strong. They as well had my brother Gordon, who committed suicide at the age of 26. He was in and out of mental institutions or jail, he was an actor, and somebody that could bring you to tears talking about the dew on a flower. He was, he just felt so deeply. His friends just really, really adored him, and yet he had this inner angst that would drive him to. He took a sword to his bedroom one time, and breaking everything and carving up the wall, and they had to come and take him, and I was he was 6 years older than me, so I was involved in all of this, and one time he was arguing with my mother. I was about 12, and they were at the other end of the house, and they came running through the room I was in into my mother's bedroom, and then into her bathroom after that. And she closed the door and locked it real fast, and he was standing on the outside of the door banging on the door. And he said, how could you let them do that to me? And, I had no idea what they were talking about. And he was just very upset. And he said, I know I'm one, and I know Ron is too. And, in my family, you didn't really talk about things. There wasn't really that emotional learning or bonding or whatever, but they left it at that. And he went back, jumped in a car, and drove off. But it was something that just resided in the back of my head. I didn't know what to do with it. I am one what, and what are you? Those seem like easy questions that one could ask their brother, but it never came out. I attempted suicide at one point, and he came up to me and he said, what is it that drove you to that? And I couldn't answer him. I didn't have an answer. I knew what I felt, but I couldn't express it. And he said, that's okay, I understand. And he did. And this is all part of that. There was a helicopter involved in that. And it was the day after I had been at his place, and there was a helicopter at that place that I went experienced. And so I know this is what he was dealing with, but he couldn't articulate it because this is 1974. They didn't have any books about it. They didn't have, any church committee hearing about it. Nobody had said anything about it. You didn't know what it was. And in my book, I go into detail about um, some of the other aspects to it that uh, involve, reptilian aspect. And this is something that I am sure that he dealt with because it started for me right after he died. And it was and in 1974, I saw something that I couldn't, there was no book, no nothing that, I didn't know about the ancient carvings that showed that sort of thing. But it wasn't in any book that I had read, and it wasn't in anything that I had seen. And yet there it was. And it happened right after he died. So I know the transition, came from there. But um, but all of that is, finding out those little anomalies that people you hear in the family they're telling, but you don't want to lift up that rock and find out what's under it because of the emotional entanglement that you've got with the body or with the family. And that, uh, I'll take all three of them, my mother, my father, and my brother, and sit them down and have a wonderful conversation at this point. But, I don't have that ability. And back then, I didn't know to do it. And I wish they'd had it with me, but, you know, uh, what goes on behind closed doors is pretty hard to talk about in the family. And as all sorts of and our parents are being duped into these things the same as we're being duped into these things, as the same that's been going on for eons. And the cult powers that have this knowledge and are enacting this, whether it's done through, a hypodermic needle or, child molestation or whatever, that it's coming from ancient, knowledge. And, but we're finding out about it. We're getting it out there. And in my case, it took a book to get it to the point of being able to express it. And it really did. I mean, I had been on a interview or two before the book, but they were pretty scattered because all I could talk about was reptilians and helicopters and things like that. But actually finding out about what transpired with the CIA and the hospitals and everything took a lot of digging to be able to find out. And I know that this book, people have been telling me given it to people that are having difficult time dealing with things because uh, 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 their SRS is coming up, or uh, the the problems with MK Ultra or whatever, the um, targeted individuals. It's real intense. And I've seen somebody that was so close to being broken. I'm surprised she was able to walk uh, uh, because of it was a TI meeting that she was on her way to. And recently, somebody gave my book to somebody that was having a SRS difficult time dealing with things, and it really helped her because uh, you know when you're in the thick of it and it's so confusing on purpose, but it's so confusing that it's so difficult to know that you're okay, that you are fine, that you are a whole and right person, and that uh, you are not supposed to have the experiences that you're having, but you do. And in reading my book, she felt a lot better that she didn't have to sit there and ask questions. She was able to read a book and just see that, oh my God, all this stuff is going on. And it made her feel a lot better. And and that makes me feel better. It part of the reason that I wanted to get it out there was that I know that after seeing that woman on her way to the targeted individual meeting, I know that there are people that are suffering, and there's suicides that are going on right now, that this is all part of their plan. And it's our uh, opportunity to get straight and detox, and find uh, our place in life. Not, I don't really cotton to the image of finding your purpose. To me, always sounded like a little too ambiguous and grandiose to, oh gosh, what would that be? But to find comfort in who you are, and with your soul, and protect yourself, that these people are attacking us. And I know it sounds weird not to take it personal, but you can't. There's a lot of Satan and evil aspect going on right now. And I gotta believe it's all part of the bigger plan. And God wins. And we are at a moment of revealing there's stuff going on right now that just never seemed possible. And getting Rudolf Steiner helped me get a grasp on reality 100 years ago. He's talking about the brotherhood, and they're actually in his writings killing people so that they will work from the other side and do magic on the uh, the other side of life on those of us on this side of life. And things I just never knew existed, that there's an interplay, that all of that is that we're creating something that's either being directed or influenced from beyond, from above. And that's a good reason as any to start kicking out all those bad habits. And the jealousy, or the being upset, or victim consciousness, the whole 9 yards. We are it's a test, it's karma, it's all of that. And here we are, and what a wonderful place to experience it. So
Yes, absolutely. It's time to heal. It's time for us
yeah,
to look, everybody needs to go and heal their inner child. Like it is that time, if we heal
wow,
ourselves, then we're not perpetuating any type of abuse onto, the future generations, because we're healthy and whole, and I feel like that's what survivors, and that's what people who have overcome these things, that's the biggest lesson we have to learn from all of you. You guys aren't out there being violent and angry, and you have every right to be angry, but you are all trying to heal from that, so you can become in a state of love, so you can elevate on a higher frequency than the people that perpetuated this on you. They want us all angry and violent and divided,
yes, they do.
and we feed into that because it feels righteous, and honestly, like I said, we have a right to be angry. This is messed up what they're doing, and they've been doing it a long time and getting away with it. We
Right,
all have entitlement to feel angry, but it doesn't solve it. If we go out with our pitchforks and just kill everybody, we still haven't healed ourselves, so then we just repeat it.
right,
We have to find a solution, and yeah, we should take these people, whoever is involved, there absolutely needs to be justice and repercussions. But for all of us, we need to say, well, if we're going to take them out of the picture, we need to make damn sure that the people we're replacing it with are leading from a place of love and not leading from a place of dictatorship and, you know, communistic type authority. We need to go back to natural law, to God's law, and we need to eradicate man's law out of here, and I think you and other survivors who have gone through these things understand that on such a deep level that is really hard for most other people to grasp, and again, another reason why I think these stories are so important, because it helps us tap into that and say, I feel so passionately, but I can create a better world. I can create it through doing a podcast or writing a book. I can contribute something from my trauma that's going to help the world elevate to a higher frequency, instead of just, again, perpetuating this generation after generation.
yeah. And it's easy to sleepwalk, uh, and I kind of think that that's the way this demonic realm operates. Is if you ever saw the movie They Live, it's going sleep, sleep. And we enjoy our sleep, but that's not what we're here for. Yeah, we need it, but it's not what we're here for. And we do need little indicators that we're on this straight and narrow. And but when you're doing bad, and when you're doing good. You can feel it in your bones, you can feel it in your blood flow. But seriously, there's something so demonic that is, I won't say running things, but they're sure making a hell of an attempt at it. I was using a telephone one time, and uh, I was getting bogged down with feeling really tired, and my energy will escape me. And I think it's a frequency based program that they've got, my DNA and they're running on me. But my uh, energy was falling out of me as I'm talking on the telephone, and I was having to fight to get my words out, just because my mind was throwing all these other words in front of me, and I didn't want to deal with those words. I wanted to deal with what I was trying to say and what I was feeling. And all these other thoughts and words were getting in the way, and uh, and I struggled to get it out. And then I'm not sure if it was the same phone call or a different phone call at the same place the next day, but I had the thought to not say anything. And while I was talking, I stopped talking in mid-sentence, and the words kept coming out. And they were the words that I was fighting against saying that went into the telephone. And I heard it on the hearing thing. And I know technology. I know how the CIA and their manipulating doublespeak and different things can predictive uh, speaking and this over.
Neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah, and I just when I heard that, when I heard the words keep coming out in my voice, I realized that it is that uh, uh, omnipresent, and that our charter here is to override that. And those malevolent thoughts and feelings about our fellow humans, whether it's somebody that's on the road that does something silly in front of you, or the person that tries to shortchange you or rips you off or whatever, you just have to go at it from a calm perspective, speak your truth, but don't get emotionally embroiled in it, because that's taking us down. This whole thing about the COVID and all of that activity was fear-based. So there's your MK Ultra right there. It's trauma-based manipulation, mind control. And yet, like you say, that if you don't have somebody that's been through the tale telling trauma that can pinpoint what happened, you are going through it, but you don't have any pinpoint that you can put in there. And because the nightly news is telling you, they're doing it, but that's dad and grandpa and everybody else would, watching the nightly news. Why wouldn't I? Oh, you mean they're all lying to me? Well, that could be one reason.
No, that's so true. Learning about neurolinguistic programming and learning about MK Ultra, it destroyed everything that I knew about the world. Like, you can't look at the world the way that you did, and then you look back and say, how did I not see that? Like, how was I so under a spell? So like learning about it like takes the spell off of us, you know? It's
Ye-
like lifting the spell off
Yes,
of us,
it
'cause that's
is.
literally like they have casted a spell on society. You don't even realize
Right.
that you're
Yeah.
under it until you lift it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're out there murdering people. They're, some of the stuff I've heard about Hillary Clinton. Oh my God. Oh my God. You
Horrific.
know, and this is where we are. And you know, our choice of coming here to be born at this specific time, this epoch, is huge. And they are laying waste to millions of people and us that are awake or awakening, that have a inkling that there's something that's happening that isn't on the surface, are the ones that can help. And we need to find our way clear to how to do that. And these are very special times, very, very important. And we'll all come together that are supposed to. Anybody that's listening that can feel and sense that there is something amiss, believe me, you're on to something. And it doesn't have to turn your life into a paranoid pile of crap. It just does not. There's plenty of love. Uh, I personally felt better once I started finding out how deep it was, because I thought it was me. I thought I was uh, perceiving or creating a negative world in my own head, but it wasn't. I mean, I was influenced. Yeah, I've had negative things around me and come out of me and go into me and so on and so forth. But the enormous effort that's being the stuff they're putting in these injections, the stuff they're dropping out of airplanes, that they're putting into our food and everything else. This is why we need to stand and why we need to come together and help each other.
Amen to all that. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
exactly what time it is. And
Yes, it is.
I know you have such a big piece to this puzzle because your story, I feel, covers so many layers. I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned your mother and sort of the role that she played. I wanted to ask you for listeners, how many generations back did this go in your family? And maybe you could sort of paint the picture of your history, and then we could move into after childbirth, like how did that story continue for you?
Um, well, you know, uh, it's a little difficult uh, to be able to pinpoint how this played out, or uh, what the stepping stones were. Uh, all I've got are some old photographs of my mother, and I can tell by the look on her face in the photographs that she is besieged by something that's evil. And I don't know if that was an interpretation or if it's something that is being imposed. But I uh, I know that her uncle had molested children, and I know that her father was Catholic and her mother was, uh, Church of the Nazarene, and they had a little bit of fighting because that, and uh, uh, there were people father's leaving the family, and that played in heavily. I know my grandmother told my father that he had to marry my mother because he impregnated her, and that was going to be a curse that he would not be able to live with. So he did, and I don't think they were all that happy through their life together, but they stuck together. But they had a, this military thing is pretty luring. My mother enjoyed being a officer's wife. My father enjoyed being an officer, and having the respect, and Mr. Lockheed referred to my father as Mr. Radar, and he was brought along to be a golden child with them, and it is that scenario that kind of I got born into. We were all on the East Coast. We didn't have extended family. My grandparents would come out and visit, but I really believe in the accountability partner thing that happens with extended families. That it really takes people to be able to rely on other people to help them walk the path, because there's just too many pitfalls. The jealousy, the envy, all that comes into play, and we do bad things and have bad thoughts and that sort of thing. But as my father moved up in his responsibilities and rank and all of that, this increased more with me as at age 5, I went into my mother took me to the hospital. A gray lady is a Blue Cross, they don't have them anymore, nurse's aide, and candy striper, I think is what they called them at one point. But we, at age 5, my mother took me into the doctor because I was too short. And I said, well, how come you're not taking my other brothers, and because you're the only one that's too short. And I said, well, what's that mean? I mean, so what? And well, we need to fix you. And I said, I don't think I need fixing. So they take me in, she takes me in there, and that's the last I remember of her on that trip. The nurse is one of these nurse ratchet type of individuals, an older administrative nurse behind a counter, and she's just stern as can be. And then that's all I remember. But right then, my recurring nightmares started, and I was being chased by a bear standing on his feet that had no snout, just a short human type of nose, and no claws on his fingers, just hairy hands. And it sounds like a Sasquatch to me. So here, you get into that otherworldly type of thing that's gone on in my life that has come up from time to time. And I kept having this dream. I'm running away from this thing. It catches me. I'm on my way to get to my family to, rescue me. And then I start seeing not the Sasquatch, but the hospital laboratory setting in my what I call memory dreams. And, I'm looking at, all the different things that happened to me as a child that were recorded that are being gifted to me. And, it's just amazing that, and it continued on. I go into, when I got back into the United States, I started having these dreams that I'm with the US Navy and I'm in underground bunkers and I'm seeing all these people sitting on chairs with no expression on their face and their eyes are open. And I mean, hundreds of people sitting in chairs, upright chairs. And, I'm, like, or an underground this cave that has been dug out, and same thing, chairs, faces, they look like they're awake, but there's no emotion on their face. There's nothing more than their eyes are open and they're sitting there. And this other dream where there's I'm in a small Catholic or church setting, and at the front is a pastor saying, they have always been with us, they will always be with us. And next to him is a child reptilian with this leather mask on that has little breathe holes built into it that are separated out. But the boy's about 10 or something, and he's the only one that's looking me in the eye. Everybody else is sitting there with this straight look on their face. And then I'm let out of the room by a priest that comes up to a glass door and he lets me out. Well, all of these people are clones. And that's what's going on. There's, a subterranean aspect to it, and this other person, Donald Marshall, talks about in the rock world. The interesting thing about what we're finding and that people's memories are being brought together is that some people remember specific events and specific, down to the button and the fabric and everything else. And other people, it's the overall impression and just little bits and pieces. And the Donald Marshall is talking about they're using these clones to fight, to fuck, to have these sordid, plays, and there's those that know that it's going on and are dealing with it, and then those that don't know. And I'm one of the don't know that had little glimpses being shown to me by my angel or whoever. I'm getting I'm getting bits and pieces of this. And, to the point of, I have in my dreams been involved in the death of people, and it is as I understand a clone, they are done. Donald Marshall says it's activated in your REM, and my take is that it's my astral. and my body, my astral body, leaves my body. You've heard about the person that's in an operating room and they have a perspective of their body. They look down on their body. That's their astral body leaving their body. That's what we do when we dream at night. Our astral body leaves our body, and we go through the exploring. And in Donald Marshall's explanation of the REM, that's when, you know, the astral makes its separation, and my uh, uh, events are based on that. And like in the movie, they Avatar, they show they lay down in this chamber, they close the lid, and the person goes to sleep, and his astral goes over to the uh, uh, planet that they're dealing with, and his astral becomes a creature from that planet. And the same is being shown to me, that it's those people sitting in those chairs. It's those people that are killing those people that are in these dreams, these uh, um, visions that I'm having. You know, and there's Nazis. You know, I see uniformed Nazis, and you know, this one United States Navy and khaki uniform officer. You know, in my dream, I'm just upset. I'm running away from who knows what. I've got a gun in one hand, I've got bullets in the other, pistol, and I start fighting to get bullets into the gun. I'm so shook up, I can only get one bullet in the chamber, and this khaki uniformed officer comes around the corner. I'm in this little closet type thing in a laboratory, and I put the gun to his chest and I fired a shot, and he just takes the gun from me and he walks me away, and that's the end of that. And you know, I constantly having these plays, these morality, you know, like the you know, is this a super soldier scenario where they're seeing if they can utilize me to do you know, a CIA hit, you know, where they'd never be able to get it from me because I don't have any conscious memory. But it's because they had cloned me, and they had put my they had trained me in my astral, and my astral they plugged into the clone, which doesn't have a soul or a you know, an astral capability or mind, and that entity you know, has my DNA, has my you know, look, you know, it's me, and does the killing. You know, I mean, given everybody has their cross to bear, uh, you know, those are some of the things that I go through.
Wow. And again, these are things that are very foreign to society. That's another thing, you know, you had talked in your book about whenever they cloned that sheep, Dolly, you know, and all of a sudden they were successful and did it, but oh, we're shutting that down. We're not doing it. Just like MK Ultra, you know, it's like they'll admit they do stuff, but then they pretend to take responsibility and react to the public outcry and say, "Oh, wait, we stopped doing it," you know, but this has
Yeah.
been alleged by so many people, and I want to say, you know, for people if that seems far-fetched, this is so common. People from all over the world. I've had it mentioned on my show so many times. How do all these strangers from all over the world have the same stories? Like they didn't stop these things. And we need to stop believing that because something was successful that could be used for nefarious purposes, that were used for nefarious purposes, that they would just stop it because it worked so well, and it's really scary to think of what they're doing and the fact that we have absolutely no clue about it. Is there any way, Ron, that you could explain to your knowledge? And I don't know how much you know about cloning, but could you talk a little bit about like where are they doing this, and I guess how do they choose who they're doing it, or who do they choose to clone, and maybe some of the benefits that they're using cloning for with humans?
Uh, there's a gentleman that's known as Captain K, um, Randy Kramer, and he told me that he's uh, a uh, a Mars uh, um, soldier that has one of the 20 and back people, um, and I mean, I everybody is holding on because everything seems so far-fetched and everything is outside the norm that has been going on, and it really is difficult to navigate these waters. But he told me that um, they actually have the ability to grow an arm uh, when a soldier is, has an arm shot off now. And they use your DNA. There's a couple people that I know, authors that are trying to clear their plates so that they can get to writing about clones, as well as TI and the MK Ultra, because there just isn't the scientific evaluation of the what the field encompasses. There's all these stories that are coming out, but to lay out a grid and saying this is what's going on, that's where we're getting to. The clone is it's real foggy. I've got all these people that I see sitting in chairs and waiting to get turned on, and then you see somebody that's on a stage and they just stop talking, or they fall over or do something like that, and it's like, well, and then they're or Lady Gaga, and she's walking around in front of a car and she's going in slow motion, and she's not there. She just isn't there. What are we looking at? And they put her into the car and they drive away. Well, was that her, or was that a clone of her? And there was in my book, I talk about the one individual that is murdered, and they say that it was me that did it. And I'm just a lowly guy in a RV, and I have these nightly military raids. They come in, and they every single night they go into my subconscious. They wait until REM. They take my astral, and they put it into scenarios, but in my subconscious, they're looking at my life and trying to find any little secret that I've got, any little, time I might have done something that was either illegal, immoral, or uncool, and and trying to build cases around it. At some point, this is the pre crime activity that the FBI does. And so there's all these things that are running, and um, uh, I get glimpses of, um, where the FBI ends and the targeting individual aspect, which is corporate run, and the CIA, is and Navy, and that's the work that's being done in these laboratories, and I mean schools that are shut down where they've got me in there and they're training me, or the Nazis that are standing around an old stripped vehicle that they're in Nazi uniforms. They got the Coke bottles on plastic, hoops that are over the rear tailgate. And, it's like they didn't have that in the 1940s. This is today. That isn't, a fantasy dream. That's a staged, uh, uh, astral slash clone aspect, and they're weaving them together. And I truly believe that there are that many of them, and who gets to have a clone and who doesn't get to have a clone, and what are they used for, and these are the things that I'm waiting to be able to help with the people that I know, that the researchers and authors that are on current projects, but they're getting to it because you need more than me or Donald Marshall to be able to paint the picture. You need the some science person to come forward and say, this is being done over at Fort Detrick or wherever, and this is, what they're coming up with. And then the application is over here with old Ron. He's getting sent off to, doing this person, and then they bring in at night this crew that interrogates me, and they're brought in by the police. And so you got a different layer, and the police are having to interface with the FBI and the CIA, but they're wanting to give them enough leash to be able to satisfy this what do they call them, people that help the police in their community minded people. But I saw him, and and you found his DNA at the scene. Well, that's I don't have an explanation for that, other than if it was a clone, that would explain that. And so, but if it's a CIA hit, they're not going to let it be prosecuted, because then they'd get found out. Because I'm over in my motorhome. How could I have done it? And it just, it keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But we are making progress. We've made so much progress. In the last 10 years, we've made so much progress.
We really
So,
have. It's incredible, especially I would say these last, 3 to 5 years, especially it's been accelerating at a
yeah,
very, very fast pace, which is
yeah,
incredible. And even, on my end, putting it out there and having people contact me if they want. I'm getting people that are younger and younger too, that are awakening to their own abuses, where I feel even
right.
just a couple
Good.
months ago, most of the people I was meeting, hadn't woken up until they were 50 or 60 or even
Yeah,
70. And now I'm meeting, 20 year olds and 30 year olds that are, very um aware of what they went through and are healing quicker because people like you are out there making books that they can go read now, and they have the terminology or it's easier to find. And it's really inspiring. We do, this is a really special time that we're in, and because there's people like you out there speaking, it's giving other people courage to do it. And so, like, one puzzle piece at a time, the puzzle pieces are slowly getting put on the table, and we're slowly being able to put all the pieces together. And it's like the more pieces that are on there, the more people want to join. So it really is
yeah.
a movement that we're doing here, and it's really special. Now, for you, I wanted to ask, so when you were in these programs growing up, before all this stuff happened as an adult, what was your job, I guess, or what were they using you for? Because I know that you were entered into, your father's background was very interesting with his military and almost aerospace and, pilot. What was it that they were using you for in these programs?
Well, uh, that's the difficult part. The my part of my answer will be in talking about my next older brother, who I didn't really think that he had the same MK Ultra uh, dosage that I did, uh, but um, I heard him one time talking on the telephone, and I had to stop and listen for a second, because it was like he was talking with a psychologist, telling him his deepest feelings, that he'd never talked like that to anybody that I ever knew. And um and I just, gosh, why are you telling this person on, what I thought was a random person on the telephone, all these things that, um, you know, just so very personal and so very, uh, uh, you know, basic about his operating, and how his thought processes worked and such. And later, he passed away last year or earlier this year, and I had asked him, maybe a year ago. I said, about those phone calls, because he had told me that there were other ones. I said, how did that? What was that about? And he said that they stopped when my father died. He didn't say our parents. He said our father, because my parents died together. And he said when our father died, those phone calls stopped. And um, uh, I said, well, what were they about? And he said, my flying in my dreams. Uh, and he never told me that, previously, that uh, I mean, I've had dreams where I flew, but, just they were special to me. But now I think they were CIA. And, and that's what he was going through. What I was going through, uh, same as my oldest brother. My oldest brother, or second oldest, the one that committed suicide, this uh, Aaron T. Beck was a uh, he was a suicide. No, I forget the terminology that they use, but he did a lot of his papers were about the aspect of the human psyche, about what drives people to suicide, and he claimed he could tell, just by looking at a person, if he would complete suicide, and so on and so forth. Uh, and um, and that's been mentioned in my, I hear a lot of things at night when I'm coming out of my REM, and I hear the people talking that are doing the uh, uh, dream hypnosis, or the astral thieving, and they are saying that I'm on a suicide track, and that my brother was on a suicide track, and he had indeed attempted several times before completing. But and that's one of the things that they're trying to drive people to in all of this, is being able to control their life to the point of uh, self-termination. But as far as you know uh, any usages for me, there wasn't anything that I could put my finger on. I ended up in aerospace industry, same as my father, and uh, whether I was programmed to be that, or pre disposition, I couldn't say. And what activity they used me for prior to that, I couldn't say. Nothing really stands out. But it's the astral hookup, which is where I uh, uh, focus my attention, because that appears to be at uh, age 52, I'm 70 this year, and and on, it's been pretty uh, continuous. So yeah, through growing up, though, I wouldn't begin to know what my use was. uh,
Well, we know like astral projecting, remote viewing, those types of things, they are looking for candidates for that and people that have those gifts, and that they can use and exploit. Is there any way you could tell the difference between both of those? And maybe let's talk a little bit about, astral projection and, what is that? Because I know you're not the only one who's gone through it, and it might be, really helpful for not only people to learn, but really validating for people who have, who suffer from that or who have been used for it.
right. Well, um, Max Spears, the one of the original super soldiers that I had heard about, uh, said that they're using that more and more now. And I don't have control over it, but I do know other people that do. My aunt, of all people, my mother's oldest sister, showed up uh, one time, and I asked her how she had done that, because you can see it. It's not like they're sitting right next to you. It's in your dream state, but uh, it's outside of a dream. It's like, uh, you know, how is this happening? And she said, I don't know. I've always been able to do it. And so, that is another indicator to me that it came through my mother's side. But the the people that, like, I knew a woman that said you can look at your hands. If you can see your hands in your dream, you can control your dream. So is that part of it? I'm not really sure. Max Spears said that the people that are in these corporate titan positions, they don't have airplane ticket go to somebody's office in a different country or different city to have their meetings. They have it in the astral. And, I've always considered it to be a CIA parlor trick, that it wasn't um, a natural phenomenon, that it was a learned, activity. And there's books on it, and I'm sure that if you were of a mind, you could create that for yourself. Why you would, I don't know. I don't know that any good ever came out of it, but there's sexual liaisons that happen up there that but the uh, uh, it's not an area that I am an expert about. I just have experience there, and I don't. I've never been able to initiate it, but I've always ended up, being somebody's tool or muse while I'm there. And whether everybody that is involved with it is on somebody's payroll or not, I don't know. It seems like they are for me, or invited as a guest or something like that. But I and I just know that it is to do with your REM, your rapid eye movement, where you fall asleep, and shortly thereafter, you cross that barrier that you're in the deep sleep, and they take you, and usually that's when you're free to dream and go, but not with me. Every single night I'm gone. I'm on somebody else's ticket. They're taking me and they're doing whatever. And a lot of it is, like I was saying, they're investigating me. But then they put me into role play, and there's been some horrific things. So, it will need to be folded into. Rudolf Steiner talks about I believe it's 7 layers to the human entity, and you got your physical body, your astral body, your eye, which is which is blood, the that uh, but and it goes uh, uh, yeah. And part of it, your soul, your spirit, you transcend into your afterlife, and you are come in at birth, and there's quite a bit to the human aspect that we're not given. It's not taught in schools. They're more interested in whether you're a boy or a girl or both or neither or whatever. But there's a lot going on here, and I really wish people would be able to spend more time with things like Rudolf Steiner's, so you can get down to what our role in this planet is. What is our karma? How do we deal with other people? What are we going through? And what are we setting ourselves up for next time? And will there be a next time? And are we cutting it short? Are we extending it? What are we doing? Instead of all this play stuff that they keep us muddled and confused, and chasing all these bizarre bad images of each other, and in a world of hate. Well, that's not going to do very good for your karma. Just isn't.
Absolutely. And
Did
that's
that answer?
yes. And that's one of the things that I want to actually say about your book that I really love is the first part before you even get into your story. You break down some of this terminology that we aren't taught. You talk about cloning, you talk about sleep paralysis, you talk about, sleep kidnapping, or astral kidnapping, you talk about astral projection. You're educating people on things that we should know about, and like you said, maybe not for personal use, but to understand that our enemy utilizes these things against us, and they're utilizing it against people like you in your own home, and you're far from being the only targeted individual or survivor of these things that are still suffering through it, and still being accessed. So I really love that about your book. And for people that want to know more, and want to dig deeper, he gives such a great insight on these and creates small chapters of these terms and breaks it down, and then gives you the definition and how it's applied, in these systems, and what they're looking to achieve from it, and what it's like going through it. So I want to commend you on that, because I love, educating people is so important right now, because there is so much left out. Like, we're basically taught to be slaves in school, to memorize and obey. We're not taught to critically think. And we're certainly not taught what our bodies are capable of, and even how trauma is stored and utilized, and why that's important to our enemy to understand that, and why they want to suppress it from us. So I really love that about your book. And I was going to say, if you wanted to, you did mention a big part of your story is sleep paralysis, and how that is still affecting you every night. Could you explain maybe just a little bit what that is, and like, why is that important to your story, and why is that important that people understand about sleep paralysis?
Uh, okay, so sleep paralysis is not a constant with me. I am accessed every night, but sleep paralysis, it started the week of my brother's death. And the way it comes in is you awaken, and yet you're incapable of moving, and you're incapable of uttering a sound. And um, uh, it's tingling isn't the right word, but there's something with your body that, uh, you know, I mean, why wouldn't you just lay there if you were awakened? You're fighting, trying to get a movement, move a hand, a foot, an utterance, something, and nothing that you're able to do. You are imprisoned and incapable of doing anything other than thought. And that I don't know that I've done that more than I'll just say 50 times in my life. I don't think that I have. It's been 50, well, next year it'll be 50 years since my brother committed suicide. So that's how long I've been working with that. But um, uh, the um, the sleep hypnosis is what happens to me on a frequent basis. But the sleep paralysis has its roots in something that may be solely occult. It may be, something that the church or the state is and has worked with. I'm not real sure. In one instance that is, I've had so many interactions with otherworldly aspects or elements or entities that sometimes it's you know who William Cooper was? Bill Cooper. He
Pale horse.
Yeah, he wrote all that and said all that and did all that. And at the end, he said, you know, look, looking at my body of work, I don't think I was right. He said, I don't think it was off-world entities. I think it was the government. And, he was seeing spaceships the size of aircraft carriers coming out of the ocean and spin on their axis and fly away, and different things. And so, my one of the biggest sleep paralysis things for me happened while I was in Costa Rica. I was helping somebody wire their house, and it was just the owner and myself there at the house. And he's in the room above me, and I'm at the base level of the house, and I wake up to the sleep paralysis, and I go, oh no, I'm trying to say something so that I can awaken him so that he can collaborate my, uh, uh, you know, time in this sleep paralysis, because it's a bit of a fuzzy area. And, I was able to get it, out, but that wasn't enough to wake him up. So in the morning he goes, no, I didn't hear anything. Well, the next day I'm in the same bed, and instead of this sleep paralysis, I awaken to this caped uh, uh, reptilian or Draco or whatever next to my bed, and he's got his hands up like this. He's got real long fingers, 5 of them on each hand, and he's doing this. And I'm looking at him, and the way his cape comes up, all I can see is his forehead, which is this bone that sticks out like this, and is the color of a reptilian dream that I had about 2 weeks prior to that. And he reaches, after doing this for minutes, he glides in up next to my bed, and I can see the outside. It's daytime, I can see the outside, and he reaches in to my abdomen, which in the book I talk about the snake, and I go into detail about that. But he's in there with his fingers, and I feel him enter into my abdomen, and I feel his hands inside my innards. And at first it felt good, and then I started feeling all my organs being bumped into and bashed, and then it didn't feel any good. And I look at the end of my bed, and there's a Catholic priest with one of those, now I forget what they're called. It's a blessing thing. They dip them in holy water, and they shake out the water, and they keep going like this, and he's shaking it at my abdomen, which is where the snake is, and the priest is giving it this stuff, uh, and then you know, also, the week before, 2 weeks before, whatever, four reptilians had been around me in a round operating room, and the same thing. It was all about my abdomen, and one had stuck his hands in me. But this one, with the priest, and he was like, I looked up the garb. It was a U.S. Navy Catholic priest garb, and that's what this was. But so it was connected with that sleep paralysis, and how, I don't know, what they're dealing with. Like I said, Bill Cooper came to the conclusion that it's all either, he just said government, but that spans all, the Navy, the CIA, and his impression was that even and other people are saying that as well, that these entities are memories or synthetic ideas put in our heads by technology, and that it isn't an entity, an off-world entity. Me, I don't know. I've seen so much. I have a hard time believing it's all CIA, but I know that they're very, very involved, as is the Catholic Church, as is the U.S. Navy. So I can't hear
Ours
you.
just muted.
Yeah.
Book ties all of those elements together so well. Like, it's just such an incredible book, and you have such a layered story. And I'd love for you to actually talk about it for a minute. What inspired you to write a book, and tell people where they can find it, and maybe a little bit about it, and what inspired you to do it?
Yeah. When I was in Seattle, I was working at uh, a radar, excuse me, a satellite engine manufacturer. We made engines for satellites, and I was working with Lockheed Martin Astronautics, were the buyers of our satellites, our motors, and there was a woman that her husband was a retired Air Force colonel, and so the people that I was dealing with were, the black ops specialists of the day. And this is in the late 90s, right at the year 2000. I had my heart stopped. People were gang stalking me at work, and I'd never heard of such thing, and I was feeling it, but I didn't know what value to place on it. But I walked outside, I went to grab the gate, and I felt my heart stop, and I knew that it was an electronic device that had done it, and sent a distance to where I was. And it became important to me to leave that job because I feared for my life. I didn't know how or why, but I was in with the wrong people, and I at that same time uh, was the George W. Bush, Al Gore election. And, at that time, Al Gore writing books on the environment, I thought he was a good guy. Uh, Come to find out different now, but at that time, I saw that the election was, swayed into George W. Bush's direction from his brother, the governor of the state of Florida. And I was appalled. I was appalled that they could pull off a an election robbery. The Supreme Court are the ones that stopped the investigation, and they gave it to George W. And I said, well, the whole thing is, riddled with, you know, criminal activity. We're not electing a president; they're selecting, and we're only being played with on the news, the nightly news, and everything else, and they're doing it in our face. So I quit my job, I packed up my stuff, and I left the country for Mexico. And while I was down there, I was down there for maybe 2 months when the towers came down in New York. And in the United States, everybody was hit with all this fear and just, like real intense. But out of the country, it wasn't that way. Out of the country, they were blaming it on the United States. And so I was having to, weigh quite a bit because, my friends that were calling were saying that, this guy in a cave in far off Afghanistan did all this high tech stuff. And I was going, oh, how does that make sense? And, so having the effort of the election being robbed, I figured that I needed to separate myself from the reality that I had known. And I went to, get heavy into my surfing and disassociate. So I get down there, and then all these dreams start coming in, and they're a little more in Latin America, they're more earth sciences based than technology based as it is here. And so there was people that were putting hexes on people that they'd pay to have that done, and they were getting results. And so I was learning while I was down there, experiencing and the like. And then with these dreams, I started seeing stuff that had not been shown to me previously. And I started experiencing more on the targeted individual as well as the MK Ultra dream or astral activity. And when I got back to the United States, I left there. It wasn't really my decision, but I left down south, and I came up to the United States, and everything had gone like, the Patriot Act and all these things that had been put into place since I had left. It was a completely different place than I had left, just in that short span of time. I was gone 14 years. And my going to the UFO conferences, because I was seeing reptilians and other, you know, what do you call them? Nordics and the like. And so I wasn't feeling like I was getting answers in that. And I met Ilana Freeland, who started helping me to understand some of the technology aspects of what I was going through and how it interplayed with other aspects that I was experiencing. She was marvelous in editing my book. A lot of the ordering of the, explaining the different levels of consciousness and all of that. Ilana was able to bring that to the table. But I knew that I needed to get this out. I got very insistent with her at one point, and it was like a switch flipped. She announced that, because I didn't have any money at the time, that she would help me write the book, because I had been taking all these notes, dutifully writing down everything that I was experiencing. And so she was able to put it together in a cohesive manner. And but in talking with William Tompkins and but even with the UFO community, I can't go to those events any longer. I don't know where it begins and ends as far as all of that goes, but I wasn't getting what I felt to be. I felt I was being distracted, and now that I'm more aligned with finding the technological aspects, as well as the the soul, saving the soul, getting the karma right, getting the astral back. These are, and the book is a bit of a plea. It's also, reaching out to others that are experiencing, but we have to find out what's going on, but we also have to act as fast as we can. There's urgency here. We're under attack. We're at war, and that's why I pushed to get the book out.
And it's an absolutely phenomenal book. And I have it up on the screen right now for people who might be listening on Spotify or iTunes and you don't have a visual. You can actually find it on Amazon. Just type in Ron Allen, 21st Century MK Ultra Slave, A Vintage Transhuman Tale, or any part of that. I'm sure just a few of those keywords will bring it up. Is there anywhere else, Ron, that your book is sold that people can go find it, or is Amazon the sole carrier?
Amazon is, but it's, I made it inexpensive because I wanted people to be able to get to it. I know there's a lot of damaged people that are walking the streets, as well as going to libraries where they can download portions for free on Kindle, because it's, it's not about making money. It's about getting straight. Everybody that has read it, that have told me that they're that they have found stuff out that they didn't realize was going on, and that it helps put things into perspective.
That's beautiful. And as much as it's so noble that you and other whistleblower survivors create these amazing, and this isn't just like a small book, like this is a deep book, like it goes deep into some stuff. It's a pretty thick book. It's a lot of information there for such a good price. I also want to say on the contrary that as a society, we need to be lifting up whistleblowers and survivors who do have projects like this that we can fund, because the government's never going to give them work or fund them to be able to do this. They're taking everything from them, so they don't have the resources to whistleblow. So I always encourage people, like, I want Ron to be able to do this for as long as possible and to have money to fund more projects like this, or just to keep speaking about this project on other podcasts. He's donating his time for free. Please go purchase his book. It's the least that we can do. So many of us give our money to Starbucks and we donate to nonprofits, and $16.95 on Amazon, like that is nothing. That's a coffee and a half for most of us, and you're getting so much information and something that you can keep with you. Books like this also make such a good gift. Sometimes this stuff is hard to talk about ourselves and it's hard to understand. Having a book and being able to give it to somebody is such a gift. Ron took the time to put together the words that we need to explain this to somebody. So it's a really easy handoff to educate somebody if maybe it's out of our wheelhouse a little bit, or if we feel uncomfortable. Go post about it on social media and tell other people about it. All those are such good ways to help get the word out, and that's why we have these materials. This stuff isn't easy to talk about, and sometimes it's a lot more validating too when you're handing off information that's given to you from somebody that's speaking from personal experience, just like Ron. So Ron, I really appreciate you creating this book for us and for all the hard work that you're still doing. And, this has been a long time that you've been whistleblowing and talking about this. This isn't a joke, like you've risked your life doing this for us, and you're helping every single person that hears your story and that hears this information. It's one person at a time that starts contributing their puzzle piece, and one person at a time that learns and creates a podcast or writes a book about it. And, you're helping pave the way for that. You were somebody that stepped up from the beginning and took that risk for us and started this movement. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I want to invite you on again. I'd love to have you on, and we could maybe dive deeper into the maybe targeted individual part of your story and break that down. I've had so many requests. There's not a lot of targeted individuals talking or able to, but there's a huge community of targeted individuals. So if that would be okay with you, I'd love to have you on for a part 2. I'd be honored to have you back on it, and you just did awesome today, and I'm just so honored to get to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Emma. And yeah, let's do that. It is important. The targeted individual is a increasing aspect to life in this 21st century, unfortunately. And like so many of these things, if it were done for positive, it would be a very helpful aspect, but it's not. It's demonic, it's evil, and it's and the coldness of the individuals that are getting pulled in. I got to tell you that it's not just the targeted individual that is the target, it's the people that are getting pulled into being voyeurs and helping with the targeting. Those people are being targeted, and they're selling their soul pretty cheap.
Yes, 100%. And that's all the more why it's so important that we learn about this. You're giving a voice to so many people who are so stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, or they're being targeted to talk somehow, or they don't have the technology, or it keeps breaking, and I think these stories are so important because you're not only speaking on behalf of yourself, not only, for children and children of the future, but there's people going through this right now, including yourself. So somebody like you give a voice to everybody that wishes that they could somehow, be somewhere and be heard. So it's such an honorable and heavy responsibility, but if there's anybody that can do it, it's you, Ron, and you've been working so diligently and you've never given up. And, I know I speak on behalf of all of us that thank you for everything that you're doing, because it's so impactful, you know, and I know it's got to be so hard for you and for everybody that did take that leap of faith and say, I'm going to go first. I'm going to step into the fire for everybody else and hopefully light my candle so other people can see me and they'll follow along. But this book really is phenomenal, and I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna post the link in the show notes, so you guys can, no matter what platform you're on, you can go ahead and just click it, and then it's gonna take you right to Ron's book on Amazon, and you can go ahead and purchase it. And again, I really encourage you to do that. You know, we want Ron to be able to do this as long as possible, and we should want him to be able to make a living and make an income just like other speakers and podcasters get to, for, you know, more normalized industries that have the backing of the government. You know, the government's not going to back somebody like Ron. We need to surround him, be angels, be his guardian angels, keep an eye on him, and support him. So please go purchase his book. And Ron, before we tie up, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or say?
We're in it. We chose to be here. You know, our conscious self has a hard time understanding that, but we did. We're here. Please detox and do good. It means everything. You know, stay away from pornography. Watch your relationships. Watch your negativity. If you get triggered by something, you know, try to calm down. Don't go off the handle. It's not helping anything. Yeah.
Amen to all that. I'm so happy that we have role models like you in the world, Ron. We need more men like you know, and I know that you're going to have such an impact on people listening. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys for listening. Again, I'm going to link this in the show notes. It's a phenomenal book. Please go support it. Share this podcast, comment. You know, the algorithms don't boost this material either, podcasts or content like this. So, you know, one of the best ways that you can give back to this podcast is to just share it, you know, post it to social media, share it with a friend. Again, Ron's giving his time for free, and that was a ton of information that you guys all got. So go back and listen to it twice, share it. Thank you guys so much for being here and for supporting. It means the absolute world to me. God bless you guys, and we will see you next